Hello, boys and girls. Greg from the Scary Spirits podcast here once again to make you another cocktail. Today's cocktail is called the Beatnik Cocktail. I'm going to start with a mixing glass filled with ice. Next, we're going to take 1.5 ounces of Verna Amaro. 1.5 ounces. Next, 1 ounce tawny port. And finally, 1 ounce bourbon. Next, we're going to stir with ice until well chilled. Finally, we're going to strain into a chilled cocktail glass. There you go. The Beatnik Cocktail. Smells very boozy. Huh? It's not too bad. I think if you like bourbon, you probably really like it. Alright. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy the podcast. See ya.
When can you consider yourself a professional artist? Maybe when you played with the Richmond Symphony Orchestra and got paid $50. Or maybe you sold a photo to Cat Fancy magazine and got paid $50. Or maybe you slapped some plaster on a cat you accidentally killed, called it a sculpture, and got paid $50. Basically, if you are paid $50 for your work, you're a professional artist. In this week's episode of the Scary Spirits podcast, Bucket of Blood, only one of the aforementioned professional artists lets their ego take control and gets all crazy with the newfound fame. Curious who it is? Grab a Beatnik cocktail and listen to find out who gets drunk on artist adoration. Cheers!
Welcome to the Scary Spirits podcast. Please be advised that the presenters may use adult language and or discuss adult situations. This podcast is not intended for younger listeners or those that may be easily offended. So, if you're ready, let's go.
Hi, I'm Greg.
Hi, I'm Karen.
And welcome to the Scary Spirits podcast, the podcast that combines the two very different yet highly compatible worlds of scary films and alcoholic spirits.
What could possibly go wrong?
Indeed. How are you, Karen?
I'm fabulous. How are you, Greg?
I'm good. Karen.
That's a great way to start off a podcast.
Good. That's right. We're starting off good.
Pre-gaming Greg is always fun.
Well, I had to sample our drink,
Well, yeah, of course.
and try the ingredients in other drinks. Because you want to get a well-rounded flavor, you want to taste them in various incarnations, correct?
Before passing judgment.
Yes. All right, Karen, I don't think we have anything to discuss about last week's episode, the invasion of the body snatchers, I believe it was.
We killed it.
Yep. As usual. And I believe this week was it my choice?
This one's all you.
It is mine, isn't it?
What did you choose for us to watch this week, Greg?
Karen, today is April 6th. Yesterday was Roger Corman's birthday. See, I'm explaining my movie choice before I reveal it.
Yeah, you might want to give some explanations as to why you chose it.
Roger Corman was a famous director and producer of horror films and B movies and the like. And yesterday was his birthday, Karen, April 5th. He was born in 1926. He is still alive. He's 96 years old.
Impressive.
Did you have a question about B movies or something?
Well, you said he was a director and a producer of horror films and B movies. So horror B movies or B movies. Are there B movies that aren't horror films?
Yeah, that's a good question, Karen.
Because the only B movies I know are horror B movies, and I love them.
Yes.
But are other genres classified with B movies? I'm sure science fiction is, right? Because that's kind of
lots of science fiction.
But are there drama or rom-com B movies?
Yeah, I know it's now that you mention it's kind of strange. Usually all the B movies every drive-in theater thing I've gone to see, it's all been like either science fiction or horror. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's what interests us.
Or thrillers, So I don't know. It's a good question. Maybe our listener might have an answer.
No. Well, if they do, they should email info@scaryspirits.com. Educate us, people. Obviously, we need it.
Technically, B movies are low budget commercial films, usually exhibited as a companion to the main attraction and like in a double feature, I guess that's where the B movie comes from. There's an A and then there's a B.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So,
but then they do set out to make a B movie.
Yeah.
So it's not like,
well, it's low budget. I mean, the movie that we're talking about tonight, its budget was $50,000, Karen, and they did it in 5 days. So,
well, that makes sense. So they know then. So every once in a while, a B movie might hit it and become an A movie, but most of the time,
or become a cult classic.
Yes, but most of the time, they're made to be like the opening band.
Yes, in the golden age of Hollywood. Yes, that's what they were. I'm not sure they are anymore. I'm sure they don't. I don't know that you can call any movie a B movie that was made after 19.
I think they call them independent movies now, right?
Yeah,
because they're not big budget
1980 or something.
Yeah.
But anyway, the film I have chosen, Karen, is from 1959. It is called A Bucket of Blood.
A bucket of blood or bucket of blood?
Bucket of blood. Just like the Ohio State University, Karen, it's A Bucket of Blood.
Got it.
And it was produced and directed by Roger Corman.
Okay.
And we do have a cocktail as well, Karen.
Yes, we do. And what's that called?
The cocktail I have chosen is called the Beatnik Cocktail. And I found this recipe on liquor.com. www.liquor.com. Shocking, right, Karen?
Yeah, can't go wrong with that one. Well, the connection will be clear once we start talking about the movie, but you should probably tell people how to make it.
Yes. So we're going to need 1.5 ounces of amaro, which is a bitter Italian liqueur. Correct, Karen?
Yes, it is.
Need 1 ounce of tawny port, which is like a wine thing. I don't know.
We're going to need 1 ounce of bourbon, and we're going to need an orange wheel for garnish.
So how do you make this concoction?
Oh, thank you for asking, Karen.
It's my job.
So we're going to add all the ingredients into a mixing glass with ice and stir well until well chilled. Then we're going to strain that chilled beverage into a chilled cocktail glass, Karen. And then we garnish with an orange wheel. And then we do what, Karen?
We enjoy.
Yes, we do.
You don't even get ice to weaken it out a little bit.
Should we give our listener time to gather their ingredients and make this cocktail?
Absolutely.
Hold on. And we're back.
Yes, we are.
All right, Karen, might you have a brief synopsis of this film?
Yes, I do, Greg.
Please, Karen, tell us a story.
A Bucket of Blood from 1959. Nerdy Walter Paisley, a maladroit busboy at a beatnik café who doesn't fit in with the cool scene around him, attempts to woo his beautiful co-worker Carla by making a bust of her. When his klutziness results in the death of his landlady's cat, he panics and hides its body under a layer of plaster. But when Carla and her friends enthuse over the resulting artwork, Walter decides to create some bigger and more elaborate pieces using the same artistic process. I did have to look up what maladroit meant.
I didn't bother. What does it mean, Karen?
Ineffective or bungling, clumsy, which makes sense, but it's just a word I'd never heard before.
Thank you, Karen, for that brief and mostly accurate synopsis, I would say.
Yes, I agree.
All right. Are you ready to get into the film, Karen?
Let's do this.
Okay. A Bucket of Blood from 1959. Did you watch this on Amazon Prime, Karen?
I did.
It is free, correct?
No, I think I paid for it.
I didn't pay for it. It was free. It was free.
I paid for it.
I didn't.
You lucky duck.
Was it in black and white or color?
Black and white.
Ah, mine was in color.
No. Go for the color, people.
So the colorized version must be free on Amazon Prime.
I did not investigate far enough because I think I paid $3.99.
Yeah, I've had it in my stuff for a while. So add to my watch list. Yeah. Yeah. So
yeah, it's not good quality either. I mean, mine wasn't. It was okay, but it wasn't great.
Well, I started watching it and it was in color. And the more I watched it, I was like, I think this was originally in black and white and this is a colorized version. You just tell, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
As you're watching it. But yeah.
But it was free.
For me, yeah.
Yeah. So choose your poison.
Colorized version apparently is free on Amazon Prime. So it was fine.
But you could tell. So
I could tell. And the first thing it said was rated 13 plus.
See, mine said rated all. Which I was surprised by.
So since mine might have been color, I mean, there wasn't, even the blood wasn't like colored well. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I wouldn't say that, I don't know, 13 plus, whatever. So the movie opens and we see a beatnik, Karen, reciting a poem as the credits play.
I wrote Rasputin comes on the screen.
Who's Rasputin, Karen?
You don't know who that is? The Russian
what?
Crazy guy who predicted the future.
Yeah.
Had the beard and the dark hair and the crazy eyes.
Yes, and I did make a note that it is a fake beard and mustache, and I could tell. Could you tell in your black and white version, Karen?
I didn't notice, no.
I did. I couldn't help but notice. He does wear it throughout the film,
Well, he's in character.
Right, but in the beginning, it's really like close up on his face more than the rest of the time, I think.
True.
You know, he only had to wear it for 5 days because that's how long it took to make this movie. And he is reciting a poem about artists as a saxophone player plays some cool jazz or something.
Yep.
Right?
Cool jazz. Yep.
Cool, daddy-o, cool.
Yes,
cool,
exactly.
Cool. Beatnik. Look it up, boys and girls. It was a thing back in the 50s.
I did look it up.
Okay. Would you like to enlighten us now on
let's do it at the beginning.
Beatnik.
Because it's a beatnik bar, and you can tell because they all have berets on.
Well, not all of them.
No, but
one
of
dude's
people
wearing
do.
like a Union Civil War thing.
So you want to know first who started the Beat Generation. And the Beat Generation is composed of poets and writers. The original 3 that started the Beat Generation were Jack Kerouac, Allen Ginsberg, and William Burroughs, who met each other at Columbia University in 1948.
I know 2 of the 3 of those names. I recognize.
So the Beat Generation is known for its rejection of materialism and the standards of the day, experimentation with drugs, and spiritual and sexual liberation. It evolved in the 1960s to become part of the hippie and larger counterculture movement. In an era when many Americans were content to pursue consumer culture, the Beats, or Beatniks, sought out experiences that were more intensely real. Sometimes real experience meant physical pleasures such as sex and drugs, or more spiritual pursuits such as Eastern religions, particularly Buddhism. So artists, basically counterculture artists.
Yes.
Who were absorbed by the hippie movement later.
And apparently they hung out in coffee houses.
Yes. Cafes and coffee houses.
So we see our main character, Walter. He apparently works there. He's like a busboy or something.
Yeah, he looks a little like James Dean to me.
He does. He does have that look about him.
You know, but yeah, he's collecting coffee cups and there's a lot of berets. That's what I wrote.
And he stops and he is looking at a picture being drawn by a woman who we learn is Carla.
And the boss doesn't like it.
His boss, Leonard, right? Leonard.
Yeah.
A lot of the time I've called him Lenin.
Well, I thought they were saying Waller for the longest time, but they're saying
I think someone
Walter.
called him Lenny. I think someone called him Lenny at the beginning, and that's why I kept saying that. But his name is Leonard, and Walter is the busboy. So his boss comes over, tells him, "Hey, there's plenty of tables that need to be clear here. Get your ass to work." Right?
Yeah, I don't pay you to look at pictures.
That's right. And then Bert Convy enters, Karen.
Yes. I called him the cool dude enters.
Did you recognize him? I know we talked a little bit about Bert Convy.
I did not until a little bit later.
Okay. Remember him from the game shows when he had, curly hair and stuff, right?
That's what I remember him from, yes.
Yeah, so look him up, boys and girls. He used to be a game show host back in the 70s and 80s. Bert Convy. He plays an undercover cop named Lou in this film. But I keep calling him Bert Convy, so.
Okay.
At this point, I didn't know his name. I think later I start calling him Lou. So as soon as he enters, another guy leaves. They nod at each other or something. Yeah, they're not undercover cops working together, are they?
Cowboy hat guy.
Especially Bert or Lou. He doesn't look like he fits in there at all.
No, he looks very sophisticated. Not
50s preppish, right?
Yeah, well, you would call him preppy, but from the 50s. Absolutely, you're correct. Yes.
Yeah, he looks like Patsy Weber.
Yeah.
Look that up, boys and girls.
He doesn't look like a beatnik. The cowboy hat guy, at least
he looks like a beatnik. I would buy drugs from that guy.
There you go.
So the other guy leaves, goes out to the payphone, and apparently he and Lou are undercover cops, and they're looking for pushers, Karen. Looking for the pusher man.
I called them narcs. So
same diff. They work for Vice.
Yes, they do.
That's what they say. And we see Walter again, and he's at a table, and he's talking to a bunch of artist people, like the poet who was just up on stage is there, and his
this girl Carla and a few others. And Walter begins reciting the poem word for word that the guy sitting there just recited up there on stage. And everybody's like, wow, that's word for word. And the poet says, really? Is that what I said? He says he can't remember it.
Well, because he says repetition is death.
Yes, he never repeats himself. And repetition is death. He just puts it out there and then it's gone.
He does say, if you are uncreative, you belong in the grave or in the army. And the reason he says that is because Walter says that he couldn't pass the army test and everybody laughs at him. So they're making fun of him and making...
I don't think that's why he says it, but it does give us a glimpse into Walter's...
Well, they're showing that Walter, he's a little dim. They're making Walter out to be dim. And that's just a way to show that. They make fun of him a lot.
Yeah, they tease him. They all tease him, but he says he's working on something. He's working on something, Karen. Something big. He wants to be a part of the art community. He wants to be recognized.
Bad. He wants it bad.
Praised. He needs praised. He didn't get enough positive reinforcement when he was a child, I think, Karen.
Yeah, something was missing at home.
So next we see Walter walking home, but he stops to stare at a couple kissy facing in a car, a convertible, Karen. The only car in this film, I think.
Oh, crap.
Nope.
Oh, good.
Nope, did not make a note. I forgot there was even a car in this film until just now.
The guy tells him to move along, nothing to see here.
Yep.
Basically.
So Walter goes home and he runs into his landlady when he enters his apartment building. And apparently her cat is missing. Frankie the cat.
Well, Mrs. Swicker, is that her name?
Something like that, yeah.
The landlady, when he comes home, well, first he's walking home and he tries to kick a can and he misses. They're just showing you how inept he is at everything. He's just not all there. And when he comes home, she's nice to him. She says, you look pale. Let me make you some soup, and what did you have for dinner? Son. So she's trying to take care of him. And she seems like a real sweet lady, but until she offers him a bowl of soup and then tells him if he finds the cat, tell the cat that she has a nice piece of halibut for him.
Is that how you lure your cats to your house, Karen, with halibut?
No, they just show up.
Okay. So Walter goes into his room and he, I think, opens up a can. I think it's beans. And he puts them in a pot and fires up his gas stove in there and starts cooking them. Then
it's basically a studio apartment, one room and a kitchen, I think.
Yeah.
You think?
Yeah, probably. It might small. Even have like it has a bath. Well, of course it has a bathroom, but it might even have like one of those beds that pull out of the wall or some shit, right?
Yeah, it's not a nice place, particularly.
But then he opens a package and it's a big lump of clay, Karen.
Yeah, I thought it was a rock.
And he grabs a photo from his dresser and puts it there on his table with his clay, and he's going to sculpt.
He's decided that's his art.
That's right. Much like you said in your synopsis, he begins to try to make a bust of Carla. He's failing.
And getting very frustrated. But I'd imagine sculpting is very difficult.
Be a nose.
No. Yes. He's just kind of shoving it on there.
Yeah. And we hear a cat meowing while he's trying to work.
That's Frankie, the cat.
Yes, we learn. And Walter gets frustrated and he throws the clay across the room and he gets up to get his pot that is now boiling over on the stove, grabs it. And of course it's hot because it's just not like the fancy pots we have today, Karen, with, rubber handles or whatever. It's a metal pot with a metal handle. He just grabs it and throws it into a sink and he burns his hand and he hears the cat meowing and learns it's coming from the wall.
And he yells at the cat to shut up. It's all coming. It's all very stressful all at once. All these things are happening. But then he softens and he's going to help the cat out of the wall.
Says, Frankie, how'd you get yourself caught up in the wall? And so he goes to grab a steak knife and he's going to cut a hole to get the cat out of the wall, Karen.
he stabs the wall with the knife, and we hear a I think the cat's gone, Karen. Frankie's gone.
Lucky stab in the wall.
So then he pounds on the wall and breaks up all the plaster or drywall or whatever, and pulls the cat out with the knife still stuck in it. And
he's upset at first.
And the cat is very stiff, Karen.
Yes, rigor has already set in.
Yes, in seconds.
Yeah, so I did look this up. It should take 2 to 6 hours after the cat dies for rigor to set in.
I would think it was more than that.
Well, it lasts for 12 to 36 hours.
Walter pulls the cat out and he says says he's going to give him back to the landlady in the morning. And he keeps hearing shit in his head still, right?
About the poem. He's still hearing the poem. The poem was kind of about artists, and if you don't create anything, you're not worth anything, and if you don't create things, you might as well be dead. And I mean, that's not exactly what he said, but it's kind of what he said.
Right. So the next morning, Walter wakes up and the poem is still in his head. And he just like rolls around in bed with the poem going on.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, it's an earworm to him instead of a song you can't stop thinking about. He keeps hearing he must be creative. He should be an artist. Otherwise, what's the point of living?
So next we see Walter arriving at work at the Yellow Door, which is the restaurant, club, coffee house, whatever the hell it is where he works.
You didn't see him mold the cat a little bit?
Oh, well.
He puts clay on the cat, or he starts to, and then he...
So Walter takes the sculpture of the cat with a knife in it.
Still in it.
Yeah, to Carla and Leonard at the Yellow Door where he works.
Yeah, so he's taken the clay that he was going to mold the bust of Carla out of and covered the cat. So it's completely white, including the knife that he stuck in it.
And Carla really likes the sculpture. And Leonard agrees to put it on display inside the Yellow Door.
Well, she's impressed. She says the anatomy is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And they ask him, what's it called?
Yes.
And he says it's called Dead Cat.
Dead Cat.
Mm-hmm.
Dead Cat.
Then they're going to put it in the back of the cafe and see if it sells. And then Leonard tells Walter to go scrub the garbage cans.
That's right. Get to work. But that night at the Yellow Door, the people begin admiring Walter's dead cat sculpture.
Yeah, and Walter keeps walking around saying, did you see my sculpture? Did you see my sculpture? But he is working. He's bussing tables and things.
And the poet gets up and says, attention, attention, everyone, and tells everyone about Walter's dead cat sculpture. And everyone congratulates Walter on his
they're
work.
very excited. And Walter is thrilled. This is everything he's dreamed of.
And he's pretty much the center of attention at this point, right?
Yeah.
So Leonard sends Walter home. He says, when people are applauding, they aren't buying coffee.
Yes.
He tells him to go home and make something else, make another cat or something. But Walter says he doesn't have another cat. And he says, well, go to the movies then. I don't care. Just go home for the rest of the night, right?
Yeah, he kicks him out.
So as Walter's leaving, a woman stops him, and I think she's kind of coming on to him, Karen.
You think?
Do you think that's what's happening?
I think that's what's happening.
Okay.
Although it's a little concerning that dead cat sculptures turn her on, but
Walter resists. He says he can't take her home because his landlady would not like that.
Her name is Naolia or something.
Something like that. She kind of looked Hawaiian. I don't know.
She says, you got a hot light bulb burning inside you and I want to be warmed by it. It's like, yes.
She says something about her piranha.
I don't know. That's all I wrote. I moved on after that because he's very uncomfortable.
I think she's calling her lady parts a piranha. I don't know what that's all about. But she does give him something and tells him to put it in his pocket and to keep it to remember her because she needs to be a part of him or some shit like that, right?
Yeah. And I wasn't sure what it was. I assume
I
it was
didn't either.
drugs, but I didn't
Right.
know. It was a little
Well, we don't really
vial.
see it now. I didn't even know it was a vial. I thought it was in a piece of paper, like
No, I think it was a
like
vial,
wax
I think.
paper, a little wax paper envelope. Where
I
I've
don't
seen
know.
things like that before, and wax
I
paper
wouldn't know.
envelopes. But the whole time, Bert Convy, Lou, the undercover cop, is watching.
Well, it's right out. She makes no attempt to conceal it. I mean, she's right up in his face. I mean, she's right on him, accosting him, and she hands it right to him and says, "Put it in your pocket." Doesn't try to hide what she's given him at all.
Right. So Lou, played by Bert Convy, follows Walter as he leaves. So Walter gets to his apartment, and he takes what we now see is looks like a small pill bottle, right?
Yeah.
He opens it and he smells it. And I wrote, I don't think he knows what it is. He has no idea what it is.
He's very innocent. He's very innocent and not quite all there. Just a little dim, a little slow, but very innocent to what's going on around him.
Yes. And then he begins to imagine himself as a great artist or sculptor. He's imagining himself giving autographs and whatever, right?
Yeah, he's high on the praise from the cafe, and he's thinking if he's famous, he can ask Carla and she will say yes. So he's very excited.
So Bert Convy, Lou, knocks on Walter's door and comes in, and he begins to question him about the heroin the girl gave him.
Right out there in the open. He just left it on the table.
Yeah, he just left it there. He doesn't know.
And the cop can just walk in the apartment and say, "What is this?"
Well, he let him in.
True, but...
Well, first he calls it, smack or horse or whatever.
I think he calls it horse.
He does call it horse. Well, that's heroin. That is a
Oh, I didn't.
term
So,
for heroin.
but he kept saying, "I don't have a horse. I don't have a horse."
Yeah.
That would be
He says,
me if
"It's
they
heroin."
found heroin.
It's like Walter's like, "Ooh, I've heard that expensive. That's expensive."
She must really like me if she gave me that.
Right. But Lou wants to arrest Walter for possession of drugs, which is legit, right? He is in possession of drugs.
Yes, but Lou should understand that he has no concept of what he's been given. But I guess Lou works for Vice and he's probably heard every story there is, right? Yeah. Of course, people are going to say that's not mine. I don't know what it is,
Lou does overreact, right? And he pulls his gun and he says, "Do you want me to point this at you? Do I have to take you down to the station?" He's trying to get him to come peacefully, but Walter's freaking out.
We should say Walter was going to make pancakes right before Lou came in. Just that's a little detail that's kind of important.
Yeah, I guess.
Because when Lou points the gun at him, Walter freaks out and
yeah, he hits him with a skillet.
Well, it's a pancake. It's a very thin. It's a pancake pan.
Yeah, it's not quite a skillet.
And he smashes him right in the forehead.
Right. I guess it would be a pancake pan. I don't know, Karen. That detail was lost on me. It was a shallow skillet.
Yes, very shallow, for almost like making crepes or something. But it's only important
crepes, you mean?
When you see the sculpture later.
Spoiler. Yeah, so Lou pulls his gun. Walter freaks out, says, "You're going to shoot me. You're going to shoot me." So he hits him in the head with the pancake pan, Karen.
That's what I called it. I want one.
So the landlady.
Okay, you know what probably is a skillet pan. That's probably what it is.
Okay. So next the landlady comes in to find out what all the noise is.
Did he let her in, or did she just...
Yes, he let her in.
Okay.
She didn't walk right in, I don't think. I'm not sure now. And she begins looking around the apartment. And as she does, we see Lou's arm in the background in the little kitchenette. Like he must, I don't know where the hell he is, but he's up above in the ceiling or some shit in the kitchenette.
Yeah, which is quite the feat because Walter's not that big. And to get a dead weight body up into the ceiling
Yeah.
somehow.
I mean,
It's
there could be a space between the cabinets and the ceiling.
True, but think about
yeah,
lifting
still, that's
Bert
a lot
Convy
of yes, that's a
up
lot
there
of work. Yes,
in that short amount of time.
yes, I agree.
But in the living room area, there's a sheet covering something, maybe a chair. I don't know.
I thought that was Bert.
So did
I thought
I.
that was Lou.
But when the landlady lifts it and there's nothing there, and she says, "You need a woman." But we see this when the landlady rips off the sheet, nothing's there. The camera pans to the kitchen and you see an arm hanging there,
dripping blood. But he shoos the landlady away, says he's going to take a shower, whatever, and he gets a pot and puts it under Lou's arm so it catches the blood. And Walter begins cleaning the blood stain on the floor of the living room, which I guess he might have covered with the tarp.
Yeah, I don't know. It was a little confusing, but he's scared and he's trying to clean up the blood. He's talking to himself.
Once again, he replays the conversation with Leonard in his head when Leonard tells him to go home and make a cat. And he says, "I don't have another cat." And he says, "Well, then make something different." Right?
Yeah, go home and make something.
Then we cut to the other vice cop.
Cowboy on the phone.
Yep. Payphone, right?
Outside the cafe.
In the phone booth.
Yes.
And he's checking in with the office.
With Vice to say no one knows where Lou is.
Yeah.
And you do see, so when Walter leaves and Lou follows him, Lou does hesitate for a skinny second at the phone booth, he's going to call it in, but he doesn't want to lose Walter because he knows he's got a bust. So he walks past after hesitating and doesn't call in. So now no one knows where he is. He's just disappeared.
Right. Yep. Next, we see Leonard examining Walter's cat sculpture inside the yellow room, and he accidentally knocks it off the table, Karen, and a piece breaks off. And we see some fur begins to stick through the clay. And right then, Leonard knows exactly what Walter did.
He knows what's going on.
He does. And next we see a montage, Karen, of police cars looking for Lou.
Our favorite.
It almost looked like the same footage, actually.
It was not very different.
From Invasion of the Body Snatchers in 1956. Or maybe they used, they might have used that footage. Yeah. And we cut back to the yellow room, and I assume it's the next night or some shit. And because we have a folk singer now up on stage, and he's singing about murder, Karen.
Murders and murderers. And when the police come in the cafe, they say the fuzz is here.
Yep. Yes, they do.
Because the police are looking for Lou.
They are. As the two undercover policemen, who are obviously policemen, walk in, the two suits.
Yes, that's when there's two kind of extremely beatnik players that kind of interject as things go along, and they say the fuzz is here. Yes.
Yes. And Walter drops his dishes he's carrying as he's working. But then Leonard comes and tells him to take a seat. And he kind of begins to tease him about his statue, but Walter doesn't know he's teasing him, right?
He's being a kind of a jerk to him.
The other dudes kind of know at the table. The two beatnik dudes know. Then Walter tells them that he has another sculpture.
A full-length figure.
Yes. The one that he calls Murdered Man.
The owner, Leonard, it's Leonard, right?
Leonard, yeah.
He's very disturbed by this.
Yes, he is. He is visibly shaken, I wrote. So Leonard, he goes to the payphone there in the yellow room, club, coffee house, and he begins to call the police, but he drops his change.
Well, he could have stopped this all right here because he knows what's happening. But then what happens?
Well, he's stopped by a man who wants to buy the cat.
An art collector.
Yes. And he originally says 300. He says like 300 and Leonard says no. And he keeps going on. So it gets to like $500. And Leonard says, "Oh, you want $500 for that cat?" And he also wants to get a first look at Walter's new sculpture, the guy says. He doesn't want anyone else to buy it before he can.
make a bid on it.
So here's where you have your moral dilemma.
So Leonard's thinking he can make a lot of money off of Walter.
So rather than call the police, because he knows what's happening at this point, he accepts the $500 and says, okay, so basically everyone has their price and this guy's price is $500.
Well, for a dead cat, it is.
No, but he knows murdered man. He's heard the name. He
hasn't seen it yet. He doesn't know exactly what it is.
Okay, but he still doesn't do anything after. Well, what happens next?
Well, so next Carla comes up and tells Leonard, hey, I'm going to go to Walter's place later to see murdered man. Do you want to come along? It's my impersonation of Carla, Karen.
That's lovely. We should say at this point that Leonard is interested in Carla also.
Is he?
Yeah, he pats her on the head and follows her around. I thought they were married, but someone else mentions it later too, that he's so...
I can see that. Yeah, I don't know.
He's not going to let her go to Leonard's apartment by herself for multiple reasons. One, because he knows what murdered man actually is, but two, because he wants to protect her because he likes her.
Okay. I'll buy that. Next, we cut to Walter's apartment. And Walter and Carla and Leonard enter. And it's a pretty cool shot, actually, I think. It's like up above, like looking down on them all, and with the covered sculpture and a sheet in the foreground, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're all in the background looking down on them. It's a pretty cool shot. But Walter pulls the sheet and shows them the murdered man sculpture. And Carla is immediately impressed. Hello, boys and girls. Karen and I hope you are enjoying the podcast. You know what I think can make your listening experience even better? A delicious themed adult beverage. You can find all our drink recipes on our website, scaryspirits.com, in the recipe den. Tune in every Wednesday and join us for a drink. Now, back to the show.
So
do you want to describe the sculpture, Karen?
Oh, you see a man with a pancake pan wound in the middle of his forehead.
It could have been a hatchet or an axe.
But we know it's a pancake pan. Plus, is he bald?
No, there's hair.
Okay, it looked bald to me, but his eyes are open in fear, it looks like. So apparently he froze like that. I don't know.
Or that's the way Walter posed him.
I guess, I mean,
he had to he's already got him up in his ceiling or on top of his cabinet or something. He had to bring him down and pose him somehow to sculpt him, right?
Yeah, I was trying to figure out if...
And Walter does say when they enter, it's not really that big. I have it on kind of like a stand.
Yes. But how fast could you cover someone's body in clay? It seems like it would take a long time. And once it started rotting, pieces must start falling off unless you put thick clay on, but he's not putting thick clay on.
You could do it overnight.
Oh, could you?
Yes, I think you could, Karen.
Okay.
I did notice that his jeans were still blue. Well, of course, I was watching the colorized version. So there was still blue showing through.
Oh, really?
Jeans. Yeah. And I was like, don't they notice that he's got fucking blue jeans on? But maybe
so
in the
basically,
black and white,
what you're expected to believe is that he's taken Lou, just like the cat, and it's a thin layer of white clay. Because I didn't think it would be enough.
Or plastic. I guess it's clay. I mean, that's what they keep showing in this block of clay.
Yeah, and the block is maybe...
And it goes a long way, apparently.
Yes,
that's what I mean. Way.
12 by 12, maybe. Yeah. I mean, it's a mound. It's, but there's not a lot. So he's spreading a very thin layer over this. But the owner is weak in the knees, and Leonard's has to sit down. Carla says it's a masterpiece. It's hideous and eloquent all at the same time.
Yes, but Leonard wants Walter to cover it back up.
Yes.
Carla and Leonard decide that Walter's work should be in a show along with other works of sculpture.
Yeah, he should build a collection.
Yes.
But to his credit,
does try to get him away
yes.
from
realism. He says, what does he say? Do freeform. Yeah.
Go to freeform, away from realism.
Which was all the rage, apparently, in 1959. Freeform. And people were going away from realism. But Carla thinks that, and other people later think that Walter may bring everyone back to realism because it's so good, right?
Yes.
Leonard wants Walter to stop making horrific statues and tells him he doesn't need to come back to work at the Yellow Door now because he's a sculptor.
He's a sculptor, yes.
Yeah.
Well, he's a professional because he's going to give him. Well, how much does he give him?
He says, here's a $50 advance on the sale of the cat sculpture. You don't need to work as a busboy anymore.
Yeah, he just, out of the $500, Leonard gives him $50.
Yeah.
I don't care for Leonard at this point. But Walter is beside himself. He's so excited.
He's so excited. He's jumping up and down. And the landlady comes in and Walter shows her the statue. And of course, she is horrified.
She freaks out and leaves. Yeah, she's like.
So next we cut back to the Yellow Room again the next night, I guess. And there's a folk singer up there again. But this time he's singing something in Spanish, Karen. So I have no fucking idea what he's saying. And the undercover cops are there as well in their suits, walking around, looking around. Next, Walter enters, dressed as an artist, Karen.
Yes, he is.
He has his beret and his cigarette with his cigarette holder and
his ascot.
Yes.
And he orders wine and a cappuccino.
Yeah.
Because he's a successful sculptor now. I will tell you this. He has become a professional because he's been paid for his work. He was paid $50.
True.
So the very first thing I sold as a photographer when I switched careers to a photographer was a picture of my cat to a magazine for $50. And I was the same. I was still working. I didn't stop doing science for a long time after that, but I'm a professional. I sold a picture. So there you go.
When I was in college, Karen, when I was a music major in college, I played with the Richmond, Indiana Symphony Orchestra as a student in college.
That's where I was born, Richmond, Indiana.
I was paid $50.
Yes. See,
I was a professional musician, Karen.
There you go. See, we were all professionals for $50.
Yeah,
well, that sounded really bad.
No, not really. And again, Leonard tries to get Walter to move to freeform. Next, who we learn is Alice comes into the Yellow Room, and we know immediately no one likes Alice.
Alice is a little full of herself. She's been to Big Sur. Do you notice my tan?
I didn't. Even in the colorized version, Karen, I did not notice her tan. But she's a model, and she tells Walter that she would pose for him for $25 an hour.
But first she says, why is the busboy at the table?
Yes, she does. So
which I wrote, she's next. As soon as she said that, she's very insulting to him.
She's just a bitch.
She's not nice.
No one likes her, like I said. And then Carla says, well, she was going to try to get Walter to move to do a feminine form or whatever. And she mentions that she would pose for free.
And Leonard again suggests free form.
And Walter says he couldn't do Carla. No, not you, Carla. I couldn't do you.
Yeah, she's been nice to him. She's one of the few people in the entire movie that was ever nice to him.
Yeah, and I wrote, nobody likes Alice. And she clears the table because she is so obnoxious. Everyone gets up and leaves.
But the boys want nudes.
Well,
you must do nudes to be an artist.
Yes, you must do nudes. The two Beatnik guys who.
Yes, and Alice is a model, so that's what's implied.
So Alice leaves the Yellow Room, the Yellow Door, that's what it's called, and lights a Marlboro as she's leaving. And Walter's waiting outside for her in the phone booth and follows her home. Walter knocks at her door and says he wants to apologize for being so mean to her. Alice shuts the door in his face.
Yeah, she's rude.
Walter knocks again and tells Alice that he has decided to take her up on her offer and pay her
the $25 an hour to pose for him.
Because she slams the door in his face, she has sealed her fate. He has decided at that moment, yep, I'm going to sculpt you.
And she wants to know when he wants to start. He says this evening. She says, okay, just let me, whatever.
Let me grab my coat.
Yep. So they go back to Walter's apartment, and Alice begins to undress Karen. We do not see any bare breasts, though.
No, we don't.
0 bare breasts.
But he has her sit in the chair, so you see the back, her back.
Yeah, we do. We have bare shoulder blades. And he poses her in a chair. He wants her to sit in a chair, and I'll pose you. And he gives her a scarf. He says, here, put this around your neck. And Walter walks around, and he strangles her with it.
That's the end of Alice.
Yep. Next morning, Carla and all the other artists are having breakfast. They all like living in some like commune in this house or something. I guess
they're all in one single house. Yeah.
Like they did in the 60s in San Francisco and stuff. Like the Grateful Dead or something. But Walter arrives and he brings his sculpture with him. And everyone is very impressed with the sculpture of Alice. And the poet, guy with the beard mustache, right? Julian. He says he wants to give a party in Walter's honor at the Yellow Door that evening. He says he will even compose a poem. And Carla gives Walter a kiss. So that night at the Yellow Door, Walter is on a throne like a king up on the stage. Looks like he's wearing some like kind of secret society hat crown thing, like
I thought it was a paper hat.
Masonic or
I don't know.
Elks or Oddfellows or something. It's not Masonic, I can tell you that. Kind of reminded me of some, secret society, Karen.
It just looked paper to me.
But it has a picture of a gavel and something else. I don't know, but whatever.
Well, he's drunk on champagne.
He is, and he's got a plunger in his hand. You probably couldn't tell what it was. I think it was painted silver on the end. So I don't know. But the poet gets up and recites a poem in praise of Walter. One of the lines is, Walter Paisley is born.
Yes, he repeats that a couple times, I think.
So next we see Leonard and Walter, and he's pretty hammered, I think. He's been drinking a lot of these Beatnik cocktails.
Yes, that'll do it.
And Leonard warns Walter not to drink too much because he might talk too much. He might let it slip what the hell he's doing inadvertently, right? Because he's not really like hiding what he's doing. You know what I mean?
No, they say, what's next, Walter? And he says, all kinds of statues of nobodies and famous people. And he just starts rattling off, everyone, athlete, whatever. He's just saying whoever.
Yeah, he called his first one Dead Cat. That's what it is. I mean, he's not really like trying to fool anybody, right?
Well, murdered man is probably a little more.
In his mind,
what did he call the third one? Did he call it Alice?
What did he call it?
I didn't write it down.
I don't think he called it anything. I don't think we're here. He doesn't say.
But you're right. He's not hiding anything. He's just rattling off. It's like whoever walks through my door, I guess.
He doesn't. He doesn't come out and say, "Hey, I'm killing people and putting them in clay." But he's not.
But he doesn't say he's not.
Yeah, but he's not intentionally hiding it. You know what I mean? He even like says things like, "Well, I don't have another cat. I can't make another cat because I don't have another cat." Right? Things like that.
Well, and you'd think that the vice cops will recognize Lou when this show happens.
We don't know anything about the show yet, Karen. Well, yeah, they did already talk about a show, right? But so Walter goes over and he's talking to the table full of artists, and he talks about all the statues he's going to make of famous people, just like you said, the normal people, and the mayor,
right? He just
etc. People who sell stuff on TV. He's just like naming off all kinds of people. He's just going to make a bunch of statues. So Walter leaves the Yellow Door. He's pretty drunk, but he hears in his head that he needs to do another sculpture so he's not forgotten, right?
Yeah, he has to do something or everybody will forget him. And he says, I know what it's like to be ignored.
So he happens upon a carpenter using a table saw, Karen, a chop saw.
Just wanders in. I think it's a furniture factory. we find out a little later.
Yes. And Walter struggles with him and pretty much decapitates him using the chop saw, right?
And happily brings it the next day.
Yes. So the next day, we cut to the next day. Walter goes to the yellow door carrying a box, and he shows Leonard his bust sculpture, or his head sculpture, I guess. Well, Leonard says, "You did a bust?" And just as Walter is showing Leonard it, we hear the paper man out in the street yelling about the previous night's murder of the man cut in half. Get your papers here. Extra. Read all about it.
The furniture factory murder.
Yeah. And Leonard tells Walter he wants him to stop making the sculptures.
He freaks out, as he should. He should have stopped this a long time ago.
And he tells Walter he's decided to have a show for his sculptures.
Right away.
Yellow door. Yep. You think he wants him to get caught at this point?
I'm hoping that's why he's setting this up, but I don't know.
And Carla's going to make invitations for the show, Karen. And we see a little of that. Just a second or two. Then we're back at the artist hangout. And apparently none of them were invited except for Carla.
Yeah, they want highbrow people, apparently.
Yeah, well, the poet says he's going, regardless, in his tuxedo and his sandals. And Walter comes in, and I guess he and Carla are going together, and they make their way to the show. And on the way, Walter tells Carla he doesn't want to make statues anymore. He wants to marry her and retire, Karen.
Well, first he just asks if she likes him, which is a good start. If you're going to ask someone to marry you, you should find out if they like you or not.
Yeah.
And she says she does, because she's a sweet girl. And then he's been thinking about it for a long time that he wants to marry her. But she kissed him for his work. She flat out says she doesn't love him.
Yeah, she explains to him, or she tries to explain to him that, because, she knows how he is, right? How he's simple and whatever.
Yeah, and she's being nice.
Yeah, tries to explain to him that she does like him, but she doesn't love him. And
she friend zones him.
Yeah, we can talk about it after the show. Let's go to the show and you can have your moment. We can talk about it later. And then Walter asks Carla if he can make a statue of her that night. Dun, dun, dun.
And it would make her happy. So she says, of course.
So inside the yellow door, we're at the show. And all of Walter's statues are on display. And there are art buyers and reviewers looking and commenting.
It's a return to realism.
Yes. Then the couple of beatniks come in.
The same two guys, yeah.
But Leonard shows them out.
They do put a cigarette in murdered man's mouth for a little while.
And we see Carla, and she's looking at the statue of Alice very closely. And she happens to wipe away some of the clay on her finger or her thumb.
It's her thumb, yeah.
And she discovers that there's a body inside that statue. So she freaks the fuck out.
As you would.
And she runs away, but Walter stops her. Carla tells Walter, there's people inside there. Carla tells Walter to stay away from her.
Well, Walter says he made them immortal. He's kind of rationalizing it in his head, but she runs because she's freaked out, like you said. Yep. And she knows she agreed to be a model, so she knows what that means now.
That's right. And he says he can make her immortal too. And she runs away. Run away, run away. And Walter chases her. But inside the show, soon everyone discovers that the statues are actually murdered people. Even the undercover cowboy cop, who's now like dressed up really nice, discovers, hey, that's Bert or Lou.
That's Bert.
Bert Convey, also known as Lou.
Yes.
And he begins to run out there because he wants to catch Walter. And then we see Walter chasing Carla. Undercover cop chases after Walter. And Walter gets to the lumber yard.
Yeah, I think it's back at the furniture place. But somebody did call the police to say Walter's a murderer. I can't remember who.
But Walter begins to hear the voices of the murdered people in his head.
They're coming for him.
Yep. Then the poet and the beatnik all chase after Walter too. And the cop.
Everybody's after Walter.
And it's kind of like a chase montage, Karen.
It is, but there was good shadow work. Did you notice that?
There was.
Where he runs by a building and you see his shadow on the building, and then the cops come and the other people. It was pretty cool work there, I'd say.
Yep.
I liked it.
I agree. Walter runs home, just like the voices said he would. Because he ain't got no place else to go, they say. And he hears the voices in his head in his apartment. And he knocks the photo of Carla off his dresser. And Walter begins searching his apartment. And I wrote for where the voices are coming from. But then I thought maybe he's looking for some place to hide, right?
Oh, I thought he was looking for the voices also.
Well, the next thing he says is he will hide where they will never find him. And he grabs a piece of clay. So I wasn't sure whether he was looking for the voices or looking for some place to hide.
Oh, true.
So next we see everyone busting into Walter's room. The cops and the poets and the artists and the landlady and everybody. And they find that Walter has hung himself, sadly, Karen. And he's half covered in clay. Kind of, sort of.
Just a little bit, yeah.
And the poet says, I suppose he would have called it Hanging Man, his greatest work.
But he doesn't look like he's hanging. Did you notice that? His head's to the side and the rope's there. It looks like he's standing on a chair.
And he's like turning so it looks like
he's
hanging. Yes.
But he's not. There's no tension there. But yeah, and that's the end.
That is the end. There's not even credits at the end. Was there credits at the end in yours? It's just the end and it's over.
I thought it was just over, but sometimes I turn it off right then when I'm finished.
All right, Karen. Anything you were pleasantly surprised or really enjoyed in this film?
I think some of the camera work was cool, like you said, with the shot with when they came into the apartment. The shadow work on the wall was really cool. It kind of reminded me of The Fugitive or something, where you saw them running. I thought he played his character well.
Yes.
I kind of felt very sorry for him. I knew what his motivation was. And even though he had killed people, somehow I still sort of rooted for him, because he was basically bullied. They made fun of him constantly. So he was looking for some way to be accepted and to know what it was like to be admired and respected. I would say he carried the film, definitely.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And the actor who plays Walter Paisley is named Dick Miller.
Was he in anything else?
He was in 180 films, Karen, in his career.
Wow. He really did have a James Dean look in this film.
But this was like his only lead.
Okay.
But his character in his film is Walter Paisley. He played that character by that name 10 times in his career.
Wow.
Because people kept creating bit parts, just store clerk, but his name is Walter Paisley, and he keeps playing someone with that name.
That's pretty funny
because of this
really.
film. Yeah, he was a writer, and he was a psychology major, and
he was good.
He has a PhD in psychology, or he had a PhD in psychology. Sadly, he died in 2019 at the age of 90. So good long life and all, but yeah, he was very good. And lots of things I've read are saying it. People are saying it's sad that he never got a chance to really play a more lead roles. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't put it together, but when you said James Dean, I'm like, oh my God, he looks just like James Dean when he was young, right?
Well, and he had the hair and even the outfit, just the jeans and the jacket, just was definitely kind of a throwback to him. Well, not a throwback, I guess. It's 1959? An homage.
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody wanted to look like James Dean.
I'm sure. As you do. Anything else?
No, I think that's probably it. Do you have anything different than I do?
I don't. Other than what I've already said about Dick Miller. Carla, I don't know. Carla, come on. Is that the best you can do for Carla?
I figured you were all over Alice.
I'm on to my disappointments already. So, Karen, anything you were disappointed in?
Well, I don't understand why it was called A Bucket of Blood.
Yeah, I thought of that as well.
I don't really.
I don't know
I
why
didn't really
I didn't get the
see any
title.
blood. I was expecting just buckets of blood from the title. I knew nothing about
Right.
the film.
It was
before
just to get
watching it.
people to come in and watch to see it.
Yeah, I mean, was it because there was a pan underneath Bert Convy? I mean,
I don't even think that. I think it was just to get people to come pay their money to watch it.
and I think I don't know when House of Wax came out, but this seems kind of like a ripoff of that.
Well, there was the 1933 film, Karen, with Fay Wray.
Ooh.
Yeah, called Mystery of the Wax Museum. That's what it's called.
Okay.
A 1933 American pre-code mystery horror film.
Ooh, we'll have to do that one.
Yeah, I know. I've already thought of it. It's Lionel Atwell and Fay Wray, who did a lot of films together, like right around in that. I think they were in The Bat together.
They were.
Yeah.
I recognize the name. Yeah.
And they're in the film that follows that called Dr. X, which they were in as well together. But anyway.
It's just very similar to that concept of, I mean, yes, they changed it a little bit, but not a whole lot.
Yeah. Roger Corman said that they came up with the idea for this film after someone, paid them to hey, make a horror film. So they spent a night drifting around beatnik coffee houses, observing the scene and tossing ideas and reactions back and forth until they had a basic story partially based upon Mystery of the Wax Museum from 1933.
Okay. It would be interesting to see if someone came to you and said, with no pretense, make a horror film. I mean, what would you do? I mean,
if they came to you and said, here's $50,000 in 1950, what is it, 6, 9?
9, I think.
Yeah, 1959. Here's $50,000, make a horror film.
Well, we already said we could do better than Plan 9.
Not for $50,000, though.
I think it wasn't that much more than that, was it?
Well, Plan 9 came out the same year, 1959.
Well, we knew what the budget was when we talked about it, but look it up.
Okay, budget for Plan 9 was $60,000.
Okay, so that's pretty much the same.
Well, they had $10,000 more dollars.
Okay. Anyway.
But this is a much better film for the money. So I'm just going to say that.
I agree. But I'm just saying, if someone came to you and said, here's $55,000 in whatever today's money that would be, make a horror film, and you have to come up with the concept, the script, everything. They did a decent job. They had 2 sets, right? The apartment and the cafe. Oh, and the house. So really they had 3. That's a lot.
So $50,000 in 1959 is equivalent in purchasing power to about $487,000 in today's money. Crazy.
It's not just to make the film. They had to come up with the script and everything. So you had to pay writers.
They had 5 days. They did it in 5 days.
Well, we don't know if they had 5 days. They just did it in 5 days. That's going to save money, though.
Well,
right? Because I'm sure they're renting equipment.
Well, they gave him $50,000 budget and a 5-day shooting schedule.
There you go. What would you? I'm just saying, what would you come up with?
Plus leftover sets from another movie.
Okay.
Called Diary of a High School Bride. And he used those sets. And he went on to reuse the sets in this film for his next movie, which was a Little Shop of Horrors. You ever heard of that, Karen?
I've heard of it. I've never seen it. I saw the play.
Went on to become a big musical and movies and shit.
Mm-hmm.
He never bothered to copyright it.
Oh.
So it was in the public domain. But anyway.
So, yeah, I mean, I didn't get the title, and I felt like it was kind of a ripoff of the Wax Museum.
Mystery of the Wax Museum.
Well, yeah. Or the later
House of
one,
Wax,
House
which is
of
also
Wax.
a ripoff of Mystery of the Wax Museum.
Right, which I didn't know, but it's something that's been done before. So that's what I'll say I was disappointed in.
Okay.
Do you want to bring up Carla now as what you were disappointed in?
I don't know. I mean, she was, I don't know. I just wasn't impressed with Carla.
She was fine, but she could have been anybody.
She's fine. Yeah, she was very plain.
Well, not plain looking. I think it
no,
was just...
I mean,
but she was just generic. Anyone, any
I won't even call the girl
actress
next door because
you know.
that implies something else. But, just your average.
She didn't stand out the way he did.
No, she did not.
For sure.
I
But
wasn't
think
really
that's
impressed with
also-
Alice either, for that matter.
But that's who she's supposed to be. She's kind of supposed to be the nice girl. Alice, you knew, was the bitch the minute she walked in. She got that across. She has very little screen time, but you know who she is.
Yeah. Yes, because everyone else knows her.
So.
And they, bring it to our attention. All right. What kind of cocktail rating given this film? How many cocktails does it take you to get through this film?
I don't know. I think what's his name who played Walter?
Dick Miller.
I think he saves it. I think he takes it from a 4 to a 3 to me.
Okay. I would agree.
Because I didn't particularly enjoy it because I was expecting buckets of blood and there weren't. So, but it's a reasonable story and he was very believable. If a different actor had played him, I don't think I would have liked it at all. I think he saved the film.
I agree.
So you're good with 3?
Yep. Completely agree. All right, Karen, comments on my cocktails, the Beatnik Cocktail.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of this one. It's okay. I think the more you sip it, the better it gets. Does that make sense?
Duh.
But it's just too much alcohol for me. I'm a sissy.
So it's not quite the worst, you're saying now?
No, it grew on me a little bit.
Okay.
At first, when we first started talking, I told him this was the worst. But
you
now
said
that
it was in the running for the worst,
yes.
I think was your exact phrase, Karen.
Yes, but the more I've sipped it, I've mellowed my opinion on it.
Okay, so it's not the worst.
No.
Maybe we'll cover the worst in a couple weeks, Karen. Who knows?
Special, maybe.
Montage.
Special anniversary edition.
All right, anything we learned today? We learned about Beat Generation.
We learned about the Beatniks. We learned about rigor mortis. We learned how much we all made to become professionals.
Yep. And we learned what $50,000 is in today's money.
We learned the right actor can save a film.
Yeah.
Whoever the casting director was. I don't know if he'd been in movies before this. I don't know anything about him, but they pulled it off for this film.
Yeah. Dick Miller was in a lot of Roger Corman films, and Roger Corman's people who worked with Roger Corman who went on to become directors themselves usually cast Dick Miller in their films as
Walter Paisley, apparently.
Whatever.
He must have been a nice guy.
He was in the Terminator. He sold the gun to Arnold Schwarzenegger. Well, he didn't sell it because Arnold kills him. He's not in the movie very long because he gives the gun to Arnold, and Arnold loads it and shoots him.
But don't you think he's probably a nice guy? Because
yeah, I'm sure he is.
And then because he gets the small part, then he gets the residuals and all that. So, and he gets to keep working. So he probably keeps his health care and all that stuff.
He started working his first film was in 1955. And he continued working until his final film came out after his death in 2019.
Wow. That's impressive.
I'm sure he lived comfortably. You know what I mean? He'd do 4 or 5 films like almost every year.
Well, he probably only had to work a day or 2.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 6 or 8 days a year, and you can do whatever you want the rest of the time. That's a deal.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, if you live within your, he's probably not super rich, but he's comfortable. Right. So I would do that.
I agree. All right, Karen, I believe the next film is your choice. Is it not?
It is.
All right. Let me write this down.
You're going to be mad.
Am I going to be mad? Karen,
I don't know if you'll be.
Have you ever seen me mad, Karen? Really? Angry?
I don't
mad?
think so. Well, I've seen you fired up before, but I don't know
on.
about really mad. I'm looking for levity here. I've decided I'm going for something fun.
Levity. Okay.
So we are going to do Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
Okay.
From 1977.
Any reason?
Nope. Just
Just
I
because you
wanted
want to
to
do
pick
something whimsical or something?
It's not whimsical, something just ridiculous. I just want to do something that's ridiculous. I've never seen it. I've seen pieces of it. And it's another one of those films that I think I should have seen by now.
Is it ridiculous?
I'm assuming so.
I haven't seen it either. I'm not even sure I've seen pieces of it.
I've seen the big tomatoes rolling down the road.
1977, Karen. I was in Star Wars era for me.
Yeah, so good reason to miss it.
And Kiss. I believe that's when Love Gun came out. Should I check my...
So what, you didn't leave your bedroom once Love Gun came out? Is that what you're saying?
No, actually, I never left my bedroom when Kiss Alive came out. So Love Gun came out in 77. See, I was right. Go. As did Kiss Alive too, Karen. So yeah.
We know what Greg was doing in 1977.
In my bedroom. I did. Yeah.
Excellent.
With my headphones on. Yeah.
Okay, let's just leave it at that. Yes, with your headphones on.
Yes, listening to Love Gun.
On repeat.
Yes. And I had a Love Gun too. I did. I wish I still had that Love Gun.
What a loss.
Because Karen, remember those like popper things you used to make with paper that...
Yeah.
Well, in the Kiss Love Gun album, there was a gun-shaped one of those, and it was an official Kiss Love Gun, Karen.
And you lost it.
I did. Well, I didn't lose it. My mom made me sell it. She made me sell all my Kiss stuff at one point. So I had to buy it all again.
They were dragging you to hell.
Yes. Because, they're satanic and all that shit, Karen. All right. Do we have a cocktail for Attack of the Killer Tomatoes?
Can you guess?
Oh my God. Maybe.
Yeah, you're not going to like it.
This is the part I'm not going to like. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
All right. What's the cocktail?
It's a Bloody Mary. Of course it is. It's Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. It has to be a Bloody Mary.
Does it? What are we going to need?
Vodka and Bloody Mary mix.
Vodka and Bloody Mary mix. Is that all?
Yes, you can.
I don't need a fucking celery stick or none of that shit.
No, you can put whatever you want on it. Some people put bacon in it.
Okay.
You do you on this one. There are recipes where you have to use tomato juice and Worcestershire sauce and
right. Make
pepper.
Your own mix, right?
You can do that, absolutely.
I might do that.
But I think I'm going to use a mix because I think we have one.
I don't think we do.
But yes,
we're more tropical here in the Wallace household, Karen.
Yes,
like rum runners and pina coladas and daiquiris and shit like that. I don't have any Bloody Mary mix.
It's supposed to be a great hangover cure.
I don't have that problem.
But you find whatever you want on the Google.
Okay.
Because people fall into different camps of whether they like spicy or. And we're going to use vodka. There are different variations. There's I think it's a Bloody Maria uses tequila. There's different concoctions you can do, but.
All right. Never had a Bloody Mary. Never seen Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. That's what we're doing this for, right, Karen?
That's what our own education, Greg. That's why we're here. And educating others.
All right. Anything else? Have any thank yous? Anyone you need to thank, Karen?
As usual, I'm going to thank all of our listeners. Thanks for spending time with us. As they say, there are a lot of podcasts you can choose to listen to. Thanks for listening to ours.
Yes. Tell your friends.
Yes, please do.
Please email us. Any ideas, drinks, movie suggestions, whatever, what you like, what you don't like.
That sounded very desperate. Please email us. Please email us. We're open to suggestions. What about you? Who are you going to thank?
Not interested in seeing your private photos.
No, that's covered by Oksana. Greg has that special relationship already.
Well, Karen, I need to thank the band Verse 13 once again for providing all the music in the Scary Spirits podcast. Check them out on their Bandcamp page.
Music does make the podcast better.
Listed in the show notes.
It's good stuff. Check it out.
All right. Anything else, Karen?
Please drink responsibly.
Yes, and tune in next week for episode 51.
Like Area 51.
I don't know. Yes.
Thanks so much for listening. Want to keep in touch? Check out our website, scaryspirits.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Scary Spirits Podcast. Find us on YouTube at Scary Spirits Podcast. If you have questions or comments, you can email us at info@scaryspirits.com. To help us grow the podcast, you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We really do appreciate your support. And as always, please drink responsibly.